This brings us to item number 2, which is basically introductory, but also, in a way, setting the scene on what we are talking about here. And when we talk setting the scene, okay, this is in the first place an AU meeting where we also flag the major policy instruments of the African Union in this regard. And to break the ice there, we ask Ms. Nena Thundu to give us a very short overview of our policy instruments. Now, Ms. Thundu is a policy officer in the Department of Social Affairs at the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa. She specifically works on programs of children and aging in our division, and she has been at the Commission for 6 years, and before that, she worked as a research officer for an NGO, Development Policy Management Forum, in the areas of research on democracy and civil society issues in Africa. So we welcome you, Nena, for your short presentation. We will make it 5 minutes because we're already a little bit behind time. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Strader. Good morning, Your Excellencies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I will be presenting just a brief presentation on some of the policies we have at the AU in relation to social protection. So, let me start. So this is just a brief, just to start it out, just a brief definition of social protection. We took, of course, there are many definitions, but the one we took was from this United Nations Research Institute for Social Development. So just to proceed in the interest of time. So this is, okay, yeah. Okay, so now, the presentation starts, even though there is increased economic growth in some parts of Africa, poverty, exclusion, and inequality continue to prevail, as we know, across the continent. There is consequently a heightened recognition of the need to redefine the social contract and reform or develop social protection systems to ensure inclusive and thriving societies. This is also following up on what our director, Ambassador Maegun, said. He said a similar thing on inclusiveness and having thriving societies. These are some of the social protection programs that, because even though there are still many challenges in a number of countries, there are also a lot of efforts being done. These are some of the programs that are ongoing in some of the countries. I can share this presentation later with all participants so that they can have a proper look at it. So these are just some of the examples of programs that are ongoing in social protection. So as we can see, there's a lot going on, a lot of efforts being made in a number of countries. Okay, why do we need to strengthen social protection systems for children? So this was covered very well, once again, by Ambassador Maegun. Now, social protection represents a crucial investment for children, particularly in helping families and children to overcome financial and social barriers. As a result of social protection, families and caregivers are able to invest on children's well-being, of course, increase expenditures in education and health and so on, and enhance dietary diversity and improve nutrition. As our director mentioned, food and nutrition security is one key component of a child's development. So if we move on, of course, social protection can reduce negative coping mechanisms in times of stress. When children are affected by put in vulnerable situations and environments. Okay, this talks about, this comes from a World Bank report of August 2011, looking at how this looks at girls in particular, but it looks at a depletion of human capital. If we do not invest in children, it depletes a country's human capital as well for future. Okay. So now to go on specifically to the AU, as you all may be aware, we have an AU social policy framework, which has been mentioned a number of times. And the AU social policy framework makes mention of interventions which fall under social protection framework, which include social security measures, furthering income security, and also the pursuit of an integrated approach that has a developmental focus, such as job creation, equitable and accessible health and other services, social welfare, quality education, and so on. This is what is mentioned in our social policy framework, which is a key guiding principle for member states to adapt to their local environment. This is mentioned within the SPF. This is just the definition of what social protection is within the SPF. Now, one of our key programs which we have within the AUC Department of Social Affairs is what we call SPIRE Work, which is a framework for rural and looking at informal rural sector, social protection plan for informal economy and rural workers. So the AUC Department of Social Affairs, of course, has a number of policy documents which have been adopted and endorsed by Executive Council and heads of state over the years. And each of our different documents, whether in the health sector, social welfare, labor section, they all have components of social protection. Like I said, in areas of health, child rights, education, development, and so on. So now the SPIRE Work. SPIRE Work, as mentioned before, is social protection plan for informal economy and rural workers. The SPIRE Work was envisioned within the Ouagadougou Plan of Action on Employment Promotion and Poverty Elevation under priority area improving and strengthening the existing social protection schemes and extending it to workers and their families currently excluded, as well as occupational safety, health and hygiene. So this is what some of the aims of SPIRE Work. So if you can just have a look, provide affordable health care, provide occupational health, occupational safety and health coverage, encourage and support the development of microinsurance and innovative, and so on, innovative decentralized social security schemes. So now, so this is just the general information about SPIRE Work. So now to proceed, the way forward. So there is a need to develop a social protection framework which will guide member states when they draft and all strengthen their child-sensitive social protection programs for implementation. So to develop a specific social protection framework. Of course, AU is not starting from scratch in terms of social protection schemes as mentioned with SPIRE Work, and other social protection components of other programs and policy documents. But we're not starting from scratch, but we aim to work more with member states and partners to build social protection as a priority issue for development of families, children, all in society. And also policies need to take into consideration children with disabilities and specifically address their specific needs. Well, thank you for your kind attention, but before I round up, I just want to make mention of last night our Commissioner for Social Affairs, this is another program which we're doing. Our Commissioner for Social Affairs made mention of a campaign that which we will be launching next month, also during the Ministers of Social Development on 29 May. It's a campaign to end child marriage in Africa. And this campaign, we're in collaboration with partners, UNICEF being one of our major partners, very active in the preparation. And in our campaign, we are also looking at social protection in relation to how to protect children from this harmful practice of child marriage, of course, which negatively affects their education, health, emotional, and psychological development. And within this campaign, we look at how families and communities need to be engaged. This is one of the areas. How families and communities need to be engaged in order to be sensitized towards the elimination of child marriage, in order to give our children a chance to grow up healthy and educated. So even social protection comes in very strongly in this area. And as the Honorable Minister of Social Development mentioned also last night, strengthening the role of the family is very important. She used some very strong words, resuscitate families, which is very important. Because families have been the first line of defense for its members. So, yes, thank you, Johnny. I'm almost finished. Thank you. So, I'd just also to close off, I'd like to, if I may indulge your patience, I'd like to just close off with just a very brief story in relation to social protection. About 2 weeks ago, I was asking my 10-year-old son. I asked him if he could. Hello? Yeah. Hello? Yes. Hello? Yes. Sorry, I thought it had gone off. I was asking my 10-year-old son, I wanted to see if he could understand the word social protection. I knew that he didn't know much about it and probably had never heard of it, but I just wanted to see it from a child's point of view. So I asked him, I said, do you know what social protection is? And then he thought about it for a second and he said, social protection? I said, yes. And then he said, well, it's to protect children from disease and to protect children from dangerous things and from being harmed. And I said, oh, very good. And then I said to him, well, who's supposed to give children social protection? And then he said, of course, you, Mom, you're supposed to give me social protection. And I asked him, where did you learn this? Did you learn this at school? And he says, no, it just came from my brain. You asked me and I answered you. So I was very happy that, he had an idea, and this reinforces what we're saying. It starts from the family. As he says, it's you, Mom, you're the one who's supposed to give me. So thank you so much for your kind attention.